on this computer. So welcome everybody for yet another session of mindfulness book reading and practice, where we read from the book The Silence by Thich Nhat Hanh. And we just don't read it. We don't believe in it. It's not a advertising of the book. We just use it as a launch pad to practice what is being said in that book and test the waters right there. So before we start, let's start with 1 minute of the very first chapter, because we feel as a group maybe that's the most powerful entity, right? So for those of who are hearing for the first time, you can know what these crazy guys are doing in the previous session. We will start with our I am here, I am free, and I hear you. 1 minute. I'm here. I'll speak for some time, and then we try to stay quiet until the alarm buzzes off. So we take a deep breath and exhale as much as we can, and we start. So with the first few breaths, I tell myself, I'm here. I'm here completely, physically, psychologically. I'm free. Free from thoughts of past and anxieties and worries of future. In the here, the now, I am free. And with that freedom, I hear you. And then we slowly open our eyes and come back fully to the session. Need, stretch your legs, shoulders, whatever makes you feel comfortable. Look around. Feel the space you are in. And we start with where we left last time. So last time we read The Fear of Silence, and then we are going into the Smorgasbord of Stimuli. So smorgasbord was a new word for me. I looked it up. So it's a platter of different food offerings, right? So a smorgasbord of stimuli.
They love. They tend to make these in Sweden.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So what the book says is that all the sound around us and all the thoughts that we are constantly replaying in our minds can be thought of as a kind of food. We are familiar with edible food, the kind of food we physically chew and swallow. But that's not the only kind of food we humans consume. It's just one kind. What we read, our conversations, the shows we watch, the online games we play, and our worries, thoughts, and anxieties are all food. I'll read that sentence again. What we read, our conversations, the shows we watch, the online games we play, and our worries, thoughts, and anxieties are all food. No wonder we often don't have space in our consciousness for beauty and silence. We are constantly filling up on so many other kinds of food. Further, he says, there are 4 kinds of food that every person consumes every day. In Buddhism, and we are not propagating or believing anything, we are reading what author is saying. In Buddhism, we call these kinds of food the 4 nutriments. They are the edible food, the sense impressions, the volition or the willpower, and consciousness. Consciousness, both individual and collective. The edible food is, of course, the food that we eat with our mouth every day. The second food, sense impression, is the sensory experience you receive through your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. This includes what you hear, what you read, what you smell, and what you touch. This includes your phone and text messages, the sound of bus outside your window, and the billboard you read as you pass by it. Although these things are not edible food, they are information and ideas that come into your consciousness and you consume them every day. I will read this again just so that we can absorb it fully. The edible food is, of course, the food that we eat with our mouth every day. The second food, sense impression, is the sensory experience you receive through your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Body and mind. This includes what you hear, what you read, what you smell, and what you touch. It includes your phone, the text messages, the sound of the bus outside your window, and the billboard you read as you pass by it. Although these things are not edible food, they are information and ideas that come into your consciousness and you consume them every day. The third source of nutriment is volition. Volition is your will, your concern, your desire. This is food because it feeds your decision, your actions, and your movements. Without any volition, without any desire to do anything, you wouldn't move. You would simply wither. The fourth kind of food is consciousness. This food includes your individual consciousness and the way your mind feels itself and feeds your thought and actions. And it also includes collective consciousness and how it affects you. All this food can be healthy or unhealthy, nourishing or toxic, depending on what we consume, how much we consume, and how aware we are of our consumption. So how much we consume, what we consume, and the third angle to it, how aware are we of our consumption? While we are consuming it, how aware are we of consuming this? For example, we sometimes eat junk food that makes us sick or drink too much when we are upset about something in the hopes of distracting ourselves, even if afterwards that consumption makes us feel worse. We do the same thing with other nutriments. With sensory food, we may have the awareness to take in media that are wholesome and enlightening. Or on the other hand, we may use video games, movies, magazines, or even engage in gossips in order to distract ourselves from suffering. Volition can also be healthy, which is constructive and motivation, so will, or unhealthy, which is craving and obsession. Likewise, collective consciousness can be healthy or unhealthy. Think of how affected you are by the mood or the consciousness of the group you are in. Whether that group is supportive, happy, angry, gossipy, competitive, right, or listless. Because each nutriment affects us so deeply, it's important to be aware of what and how much we are consuming. Our awareness is key to our protection. Without protection, we absorb far too many toxins. Without realizing it, we become full of toxic sounds and toxic consciousness that make us ill. Mindful awareness is like a sunscreen protecting the sensitive skin of a newborn baby. Without it, the skin would have blisters and burn. Without the protection of our mindfulness, with the protection of our mindfulness, we are able to stay healthy and safe and take in only those nutriments that help us thrive. So I think we will wait here and stop here, because after this, what happens is we go into each of the nutriments explicitly. but it's a what this statement. I would like to draw your attention to this statement. So all of these foods can be healthy or unhealthy, nourishing or toxic, depending on what we consume, how much we consume, and a very powerful third party adds to it. How aware are we of our consumption? Yeah. I mean, maybe you're Alessandra, if we talk about edible food, and you are the expert of it, intuitive eating. I mean, generally we talk about how much we consume and what we consume, right? That's generally
Yes.
the dietary advice. But now he's going a step ahead and saying you need to be aware of that consumption.
Which is another thing, another essential part of intuitive eating.
Yes.
To be in touch with our bodies and be aware of what our bodies are asking us to eat, and eat it and be in touch with the sensations of, okay, I've had enough, I'm going to stop here. Okay, my right now my body is asking me for these vegetables, or my body wants water, or my body needs a little bit of sugar, or maybe it's a little low on energy, so it wants some carbohydrate. To eat with more awareness. That's like the basic goal of intuitive eating.
Yes. 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 And about so intuitive eating of all of these four nutriments now, not just food. That is what he's bringing us towards, right? So all of us. So for me, for example, the edible food, generally I'm too engaged in doing something while I'm eating. So I'm not conscious about my eating, right? I'm always engaged in some other event while eating it. I rarely take each bite very mindfully, and I'm not aware of what I'm very rarely, right? So I
Most
have
of
to
us
do
aren't.
that. So I think when we eat really mindfully, I mean, the essence of the food, the taste buds, everything in it, it becomes such beautiful stuff that when we can do it, like Piyush was saying, whenever we practice, it's a very nice thing to do, but we fall back to our original patterns very easily. So I think the lesson today, testing around these testing around this four nutriments of edible food: sensory impression, volition, and consciousness, both individual and collective. I think that will be our practice for the next week to test. And this is the practice that, I mean, we cannot have food now. I have my snacks out here, but let's do a small 5 minutes activity, test the waters, and we do a mindfulness activity of trying to be aware of the rest of the three nutriments right now. Let's test the waters right now. We don't believe what he's saying. Maybe it's just a good book, right? Does it really work for us individually here now? Then it makes sense, right? So I will just give some cues. We go into the 5 minutes mindfulness breathing activity. And what we are going to focus on is our awareness of our sensory impressions, awareness then of our volition, and then awareness of the consciousness, both individual and the collective, and whatever that means for each one of us. Right?
Okay.
So let's start. Let's take a deep breath and release. And you can close your eyes or keep it low focused. So with the first few breaths, I become aware of all my senses. Of what my eyes are seeing, of what my ears are listening, of what my nose is smelling, of my tongue tasting, of my complete body and its contacts in different parts while I'm sitting. and my mind, aware of all of the senses amidst all of the distractions. Then I'm aware of my volition, my motivations, my cravings or longings, and my obsessions. Without any judgments, I'm aware of my volition. With next few breaths, I'm aware of my consciousness, how my mind feeds itself thoughts. I'm also aware of this group consciousness, how each member of this group makes me feel. I am aware of all of these nutriments inside me. And with this awareness, I observe it silently. If I get distracted, I gently allow myself to come back to my silent awareness. I slowly try to open my eyes and return back to the session fully. How do you feel?
Home.
Home.
Just being aware of these things, I mean, it makes you feel quite light, I guess. I mean, for me at least, yeah.
Me, it becomes very, I want to click. I can't. As of now, when I try to speak, it becomes very hard to speak. It takes time to start speaking again. It feels like staying in there a little more longer, a little more longer, a
Yeah.
little more longer. I think when we started with this group, I remember the first time when we tried 5 minutes, it felt big. It felt so big. It was just not ending, right? And now 5 minutes is like we want more of it, right?
Yes.
Just more of it. Okay, I will stop the recording.